So back to using Zoom.
Hello.
How are you, Ed?
I'm good. So yeah, I think we've got an event coming up on the 9th of June, and we should come up with a plan for that as part of today. How are you?
All right, pretty good. I mean, I've been working on the minimal kind of, the light touch thing. Not a huge amount of progress there. The action cycle, I think, is good to go. I think we should try that. I moved into this kind of building, Abbey Field house, project thing, community kind of thing. Yesterday, and I worked there for the day. There was another person there who was an artist. That was kind of okay. And I spent most of my time writing just kind of like a fiction thing, which is just like a side project, which I might have to continue if the Eco Square thing doesn't work. If we don't, lift off, then I'm going to have to do something else. So I was thinking of doing that. So that's my plan for June, is to basically write a kind of narrative thing, story thing, scenario for the whole of June every day, and do other things for June. But so that's okay. And then, did you just get this email, by the way? Did you just get that email from Pete? Oh, it's gone.
I think not up for being public as yet, but yeah, I don't think you need to worry about that stuff at the moment. I think we can discuss that separately. But I think for me it comes down to what I've been saying as well, which is the need for something that is the everything that you've done is in place, other than the kind of public facing brand orientated aspect of it, which doesn't ever seem to be, I think, from many, especially if it's, you've got a kind of mathematical core to some of the concepts like of Eco Squared, and the simplicity of the message is so obvious, then it's quite easy to be frustrated by the mundane stuff, like how to present that. But I think that's where the devil is in the detail, and I think that's where the lit button and all this kind of work is valuable, because it's not claiming to solve the world's problems tomorrow. It's actually giving people a way of putting money behind what they like. That's simple as that. That the rest of it is implications, potential implications that could have a big brand value to them, like, wow, club together and save poverty, save the country from I don't know, global warming. But it doesn't need to be that, and the change would be slower, and well, not even slower, but just more. Everyone would feel more bought in if it was something that was uncontroversial, like you are now able to like things or share things, and the people who you share things about get paid. It's really simple, and everyone can get behind that.
I know, but I said that.
The rest of it, yeah, it's like I had this. I'm on mailing lists where people get enthusiastic about the product, and then they say things inadvertently that put off a segment of their market.
Oh yeah. So, I have absolutely. I mean, I've not pretended. I thought that we were kind of agreed in what we were doing. I'm definitely not going for segmentation. We're saying things, for a specific group, or not trying to say something that will annoy some others. I think the idea was, and the whole point about Eco Squared, at least as far as I can understand it, is that you just put out different things, okay, for different people. And if the person likes it, they move with it. If they don't like it, they don't. But they take the thing that they think is useful. And I thought certainly that email was not brilliant, but I thought people are now into seeing multi perspectives of a person, not just one. The brand. Okay, so no, I'm happy. I'm kind of happy, although not so happy. I'm kind of happy with what I've done, which is look, there are these different directions, there are these different strategies. If you like this one, you move with it. If you don't, you don't. Think of a person that is going to like this. And if you don't like it, you don't. That's fine. But if you do, you share it with that person. So, for example, if you have an album and you do a variety of different kinds of music, and some of them are rock, and some of them are folk, and some of them is, I don't know, classical, you're not going to, everybody's going to like them. But the person who likes classical, ooh, I like this classical one, I'll share that. Job done, all right? So I'm I'm just surprised that people aren't quite there yet with that. But
I agree with that.
I'm happy to go down, other routes. If other people say, I think we should go down this route, so, okay, let's go down that route. I don't mind, but I need to have a result, all right? And my own personal one, the one that I think about, that rocket one, I think it's entirely valid. I just don't understand. I'm sure there are other people on this planet that go, yeah, that makes kind of like obvious sense. But
the rocket one, sorry, I might have missed. What's the rocket one?
I think it was. I mean, I've sent the email back to him saying, what's the response? Okay, so if somebody doesn't like my manner, it's like, okay, great, okay, what was it to? And if it was to the rocket one, it's like, oh yeah, I can see why. Okay, but why did he give it to him? I mean, why did he give this thing to, right, it was the wrong thing to send. Yeah. But other ones, the Educari one, I don't know, it's just different ones. And my manner is quite energetic in these videos, but such is life.
I think you're right.
I'm worried about the 9th, all right, because it depends how it works, it depends how it goes and how it's done. But as I think I don't know if you've seen my last email, but basically my manner works with teenagers, or it had worked. I don't know about now. I'm too old now. Too much grey. Before it worked because I'm genuine and it's strong, it's positive, but it's also vulnerable. And the kids can see that. Okay, the kids can see that I'm just saying something which is true or not. And what we do is we check it. And we check it by doing it, testing it. That's what we do. Okay, and when it works, they go, it's working. Let's pay more attention to this person. And that's it. And that, don't know if this is going to work, but let's try it. That works with adolescents because it's genuine, it's true, and it works. With adults and with this medium, I think that it doesn't work. And I'm worried about being in front of a bunch of people. Because if they're critical, if people are critical in an adult kind of way where they don't allow themselves to be challenged, let's say, it means that some people's response is like, who's this guy think he is? And it's like, I'm just a guy suggesting something that nobody's tried. That's it. But, it can come across not well if the person's, not happy for whatever reason.
I mean, I think like criticisms come from piecemeal snippets or particular sentences or moments where they get turned off by a sentence, like that.
No. I think it's a deeper thing. I think there's a manner thing about me where my manner is not like, it's just too threatening in some weird kind of way. Whereas, as I say, with adolescents, I never got any, I mean, sometimes I did, but very rarely. But as adults, I get that quite a lot. And so that's why I've been playing the card of, okay, to compensate for that, I am the smart guy. I am the smart guy who came up with this. All right. So, that's why I'm speaking the way I am, because I'm really smart and I really know what I'm talking about. Exactly. Whereas basically it's just an experiment and I don't know. I do not know if this is going to work. I just think it hasn't been tried. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So, but adults don't like that. I just want to trust somebody who knows, an expert. So it's very, very. So if we're going to focus on the 9th, I'm like, how we set that up, I don't know. But
okay, so let's talk about it as if it's happening, because that's a useful way of getting some kind of sense and shape, and that can sometimes reduce fear, etc. But first of all, like the crowd should be pretty good at that kind of thing, I would say. And also we can say at the beginning, you know, maybe make more effort and say, get ourselves into a certain state, which is to try and leave our prejudices at the door and just be here now. And if you don't want to be, just leave the room, but don't come with the sort of trolling aspect or
Yeah, that's good.
That's fine. You can do that. But anyway, so the two options are action cycle, AC, and DC, which is a direct cycle. So a direct cycle is something that we could come up with beforehand that might be to do with how we might want to develop the space at Muir House, or how we might want to develop Eco Squared and Delic or whatever. And then there's an AC, which is completely down to the group itself, and the group itself comes up with the aim and then spends an hour developing that aim. I think within that, you either at the end or at the beginning, presenting Eco Squared, I'll present Delic at some point as well, maybe as part of a separate session, I'm not sure. But I think it's important that Eco Squared, that you are able to explain to people that the reason Eco Squared exists is as a solution to the fact that people don't have a way of monetizing or exchanging value after an action cycle in a way that means they can continue doing the actions. So with an action cycle, you do the hours worth of work, you resolve on something to do, and then you spend the next week completing it. And you've got lots of track record in events you've done of this kind where people have completed that week. But after that, because there's no lasting networked way for transferring value, the projects peter out, or people have been inspired but nothing else. And what you were saying is the coordination can continue if there's a way of value exchange. And that all of that's really powerful. And that all taps into the use for any website, you know, as well. So
you've done it. Ed, yeah. You're hired. You've got the job, Ed. Do it. Because if I verbalize that, the point is, there's something. I try to warn people. I say, I mean, some people, when I get engaged people in person, that usually works, okay? But, okay, there's something that happens when you get a crowd of people, okay, that starts to happen. And I have not yet, have I been in front of a crowd of adults and it's worked? I get too stressed, I think. Okay, so that means that my natural kind of relaxed, reassuring thing kind of works with adolescents. It's fine, but with adults, it's like, and I don't know, I'm not convinced. So I would like to, because obviously the thing's good. But the way you just described that just now, I'm like, that makes sense to me.
The thing is, I mean, in a way, the way I described it is actually more boring to most audiences than the way you describe it, right? However, in being more boring and nuts and bolts, maybe it alienates fewer people. And when you're talking to people who are business people who are our age or older, they are used to consolidating things in meetings, and they may be a little bit resentful or annoyed by a presentation that seems to be more sprawling. But actually, the teenager would sit there going, actually, this guy's got a point. However, the teenager might still go, 1 billion overnight? Nah, there's too many of those older adults being realistic that kind of, you know, press down on my adolescent world. And so this is never going to happen.
Never going to happen. I don't know. I think that I don't know. I kind of like, I don't know. I'm going to think about that because, you know, if obviously it's not, the whole point about Eco Squared is it grows in the direction it's meant to grow in. Okay. So it's shared by the people who like it. So I think that this notion that you're going to test it, forget about what the money's for. Guys, forget about that. It's whether it works. And if it works, then we go, right, it works, right, so let's direct it. I mean, it's so obvious. It's frightening, all right? And so that's why I want to try and put across that it's so obvious. It's so obvious. And I have to express it. And I'm going to share it with a few people, all right? The few people that I engage and I go, oh, it's possible. And they go, really? You think it can happen? And I said, oh, yeah, the mechanics are there. They go, oh. And I said, right, I'll share this with you. Boom. And then they go, oh, yeah, I think this is possible. And they share it with people who they think will get it. And that's it. Who they think they're going to. And of course, I'm going to do this every month. I'm going to do this anyway. So I'm going to do the 1 billion thing in June. And on the first day, I'm going to share it with, well, not you, because you don't think it's possible. All right. So, I'm definitely not going to do it with the person who sent the email, but I will share it with one or two other people. One happens to be African.
Okay.
Okay. Is it in Africa? And I go, okay, right. Seems positive. Boop. And then we're going to start it with him, and I'll start it with somebody else. 2 people. Like everybody else, 2 people. And, and if it dies after the first person, it gets to the second day and it's dead, then we go, well, that was a test rocket thing, and it didn't really last very long, did it? And then I'll try it in July, all right?
The thing is, I agree with that, and I think that's good. And I think, in a way, if you were to flip the Prism and the video cycle, you might get quicker to a pitch that is successful. But the trial and error aspect is also good, and I actually think there's value in it, and I think all your videos make sense if you actually digest them, and the points, all of the funny stuff and the things that are in danger of putting people off. That's actually like idiosyncratic stuff about the way you express yourself, and some people can get a bit annoyed about that. But I also know how annoying it is when someone says to me or implies, oh, you're just jealous, or oh, you've got some deficiency that means that you just don't understand. I'm not saying that. I'm more like, I think a lot of the people looking will be looking earnestly and honestly, but they'll be looking out for the interests of the person who shared it with them, not just your interests. And that's key. And that's part of the value mechanism that you yourself promote, which is that the sharer should, there's value to every link in the chain, including the people who share it. So I think there's loads of valid lessons to come out of that. But if you carry on, say, every month doing the rocket or the 1 billion and sharing it with a couple of people, seeing where it goes, maybe in conjunction with the Prisms, in conjunction with Lit, in conjunction with other things that happen, eventually, boom, it takes off. But let me give you an example of my lesson on this one. It was about, I started with audiences, maybe, I mean, you had class audiences, so you started early as well, but I started with audiences when I was in a band at the age of 17. And from there, like, learned quite a lot over the years about how things work. And the example that I'm thinking of is has completely gone out of my head.
Okay, but it was a good example, and it'll come to you again.
It will come to me again. It's coming.
Okay. Well, if I just say,
it taught me in one go. It taught me, like, it's about, like, how you present what you know. You don't have to want to get uptake, but if you could save, you have to decide in yourself whether you want to save 6 months potentially, and not do the rocket videos, or whether you think, actually, oh, this is it, I've remembered. So I gave my mate a CD that was free, just with a couple of my tracks on it, like terrible music. It's like a late night jam with like terrible lyrics and like quite stream of consciousness. There was some kind of seed of greatness in there. I was sure of it. I left it on his desk and said something like, sell this when you're in 20 years time when it's worth £1 million. And, some shit like that. Here are my bank details. You can pay me later. So I put that on the CD. And I kind of think I lost him slightly distanced this guy from my life, right? But over time, regardless, like, we're all trying what we're trying. It all might fail. I'm doing a bit of a beer business, investing a bit in that, risking a bit. I'm doing Delic, very risky, innovative startup, but all of them have absolutely solid foundations. So you've got to go with what you believe in, right? And then eventually, who knows? Maybe it'll be worth not £1 million, but £1,000 one day. Like, if this becomes a big business, everyone has delusions. Everyone maybe needs to work to get rid of their delusions. But at the same time, I believe your position is more subtle in the sense that you realize the maths and you realize the value of the mechanism you've suggested, right? But you're not even, it's not as important whether it reaches 1 billion people. like
That's
that's the funny thing about what you're saying. Is you're able to use all of that big language because you don't care about it as much as someone else. Whereas if someone's actually claiming that in all seriousness, like in a kind of control freak type way, a billion people must use this. That's scary. That is scary for people, and rightly so.
no, 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 no. Okay, I refuse. I refuse. I disagree. Look, just remember I've been doing this for 4 years. Okay, so I have taken the normal route. I have gone through Scotland and I have gone through, spending 6 months driving around to various accountants and lawyers in order to produce a 2-page document to give to, gatekeepers. And it was all very calm, suits, wandering about, well, not tie, but, suit, wandering about, doing the thing, being quite calm, being normal, being very boring, kind of, okay, people getting it, oh, their eyeballs are, oh, they can see money, okay, great, 100K, okay, right, we've had it, okay, it's built something, we've done all that, okay? And if I've got to the state where I am, well, I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, I've done that, that didn't work huge amount, okay? And for whatever reason, and all the talk and all the things and the simple phrases and people come up with very simple descriptions, I go, okay, I've had that, it's great, but it hasn't, helped me. I'm in a financially tricky situation because I'm taking the risk on the thing. And if I am doing that and I've got to my state, I'm going, bugger this. I don't know what everybody's yapping on about, because if you're right, it would work like that. Okay? If just say the thing, describe it, nice and neat. I've done that, I feel. Okay? And I think I have with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Right? And it still hasn't taken off. And I go, well, why not? I think it's just the nature of the beast. So I'm deciding, and I thought that was interesting about you, is that you're trying to do things on the ground and everything else and doing, interesting things. And I went, bugger it. Okay, let's do it that way. Let's just go, describe it this way, do these different forms, do the simultaneous thing. Let's just, put out there in that kind of way. So that's what I'm trying to do. And the 1 billion, it shouldn't be something that frightens. That's what I'm trying to do with the energy, to go, guys, let's not worry about it. All you need to do is share the thing with another person. That's all you need to do with, a pound. If you do that at 24 hours, that's the result. Let's not be frightened of it. Let's not go, ooh, just go, right, so I do this bit and that's what happens. Okay, that should be enough for any human being. It should be enough. Honestly, it should be enough for anyone to go, I'll give it a go. I mean, it's obvious. All I have to do is that, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go. Anyway, so I'm not going to push the thing. I'm just saying, it's like a funny thing.
And I think also when you read the article and then watch the video as well, often it does kind of mutually reinforce in a good way. Whereas if you look at one and not the other, it's less powerful. But not everyone consume everything in its entirety. In fact, most people.
That's also, I thought, that's what I'm doing. Basically, I've gone, right, okay, I'm just going to describe all the different elements of this and the different parts that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to disappear under the water. So I'm just going to go boop, 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 boop. Bye, folks. Unless somebody actually goes, wow, that's amazing. Ooh, let's do something. If they don't do anything, I just go, bye, folks.
Yeah.
Clueless. Okay, so I'm like, poof. So
I think you're right. I think in that sense, it's like the fascination almost with the lack of action on people's part is understandable in a way, and frustration is definitely understandable. But I would say that it's exactly what you've hit the nail on the head in the sense, because what you're dealing with, especially with an idea like Eco Squared, is human nature, right? You are dealing with a network that's full of, let's say, fearful nodes and hopeful nodes, right?
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. So you're not going to get, no perfect pitch is going to convince someone at PwC unless they know they've kind of played golf with you or whatever ridiculous things they're not even thinking about.
Oh, yes, that's one route. And the other route is it's working. Okay, the reason why the thing happened in the classrooms, it's not because I appealed to a few of them, or I appealed to the kids doing football, and I got all the little, the segments. Bollocks to that. They had to step out of their own reality to be able to engage each other and me. And that's what the courage is. The courage is to go, whatever it is that I'm interested in, whatever the person I am, that's not what we're relating here. The fact is, we're all in the room together. Oh, that's true. And then you just start pointing out the true things, and people do and have accede to that. The closest parallel to this is spiritual.
Yeah, yeah.
The closest is spiritual. That is, that people are not my personality, me, and what I'm like, and the person that's identifying with me. It's like, I'm not identifying with you. That's what you have to identify with, what we could be. And that's each of us individually achieving or becoming more real and becoming more comfortable with the people around us.
Yeah.
Now, that is a more spiritual path. That's more like, what the spiritual people do. And what we're doing with the tool, at least with Eco Squared, is, well, it's a different rule set, and it hopefully induces this other thing. But to do both at the same time, people don't get. Talking about money, like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah. And so it's a nightmare, all right? I just wanted to put that out there, just to go, this is possible. I'm going to continue doing the experiment, or if somebody else wants to, I'm very happy to take part in anything anybody wants to do. I'm doing my bit, all right? Yeah, yeah. And it's not just an isolation. It's not just suddenly. I'm just going, right, I've had this time, right? I can see the future, and I'm going, okay. Did you know today, I just read this article. Sweden has now distributed to all its individuals, participants, a crisis, what to do in crisis or war. Document, 20-page document to every member of Sweden. That's 4.8 million. Now, I'm sitting there reading this, just going, what? I mean, Sweden, they weren't even in the war. I mean, what? The last time they did anything was 1952 or something. What are they doing? So that's the state of the world we're living in. It's not healthy, okay? If a safe country like Sweden, okay, is doing that to its own citizens, right. So for me to be describing the things I'm describing, it's like, it's nothing. I mean, it's just like a little noise, and people go, oh, okay. It's interesting, it's not interesting. It's relevant, it's not relevant. It is relevant. If we can generate 1 billion in a month, we can start dealing with major problems. Or we can take the other path, which is very slow, thanking each other, nobody gets, nobody understands, okay, and it grows, that's fine. Or, as I say, we hit, with things that we can do, with the tool that we've actually got.
Yeah.
Okay. So, poof. So,
I'm really on that. Okay, I agree. So let's say, okay, right, so I think we come to the thing with lit, that the lit button is an answer to the sort of, let's call it the mainstream mentality, which is synonymous also with investors, because that's what they want to see uptake, right? But there's that, and we've discussed that in other prisms, and that's what these prisms are aimed at, is actually realizing that particular piece of tech, which speaks to your practical side, my practical side, and our desire to, that economics can work so easily differently online, right? But the second thing is, if you go with, let's say you take your approach to its logical conclusion, all the things I was saying on Trello are also true. Like, people need to believe in the entity, not just the one idea of get 1 billion. It's like, who owns the entity? How is it encrypted? All these practical aspects around it. And then let's take the billion thing. What's the mission? We need to choose one. We need to back one charity or some trusted thing, or not, but have our own infrastructure in place that's all perfect, including, in my view, like the way that the tech is developed. It needs to be a holistic thing. The tech needs to be developed using Eco Squared.
I agree if we take that route, and we are taking that route, and that is the route of lit. Okay, I agree.
Yeah, but
the other thing is simply
the billion to energize people into a movement where they realize, oh shit, yeah, I can just press one button and tomorrow £1 billion will have been raised. That's a fantastic idea. So much so that it feels unrealistic and people get afraid of it. That's as simple as that. That's what's happening now. Right? But also, if everything's in place, and I know what
I press that button.
Exactly, but what you're saying to yourself is, don't say if. Like, you're saying to me, don't say if. It's another restriction. It's another barrier to letting go and just doing it. Kind of, but actually, I would. My thing is to present something in a way which is best likely to do what it wants to do, and I think there isn't that far to go. Actually, I think that's the frustration. It's like there's little steps to go, but if you had one cause that's on Facebook, when they click like, suddenly...
Not an argument. It's not an argument. I see that. I just went, forget about where the money's going and forget about da 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 da. That's one thing. Okay, if it's not that, we're not testing the engine horizontally to see if it fires up. All right. Okay, it's not a rocket that we're testing. Fine. Okay. In which case, we are talking about trying to stack the things, make sure it's working, make sure that the thing works as the rocket does. We get to the moon. Okay, or we get to the top of the mountain, or wherever the rocket goes. Fine. Okay, and we're building this thing, and we have to be careful and everything else. And it's like the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm happy to take part in that. Have you looked? I just put up a lit. I produced a document and I've stuck it up on on Trello. And it's the verbalization I spoke to you on the phone just the other day to do with using the Chrome browser itself, so that when you share a link on Chrome browser, you click and then you hit the share with, and then instead of doing it by email or WhatsApp, you do it by Eco Squared. And I've just done a little PowerPoint, and that's basically it. Person gets the phone notification, they tap on it, and then it says share. Or no, it says view, and then you tap on it, you're there. And we've tracked that. We've just simply tracked the sharing through the browser's own system.
I think that system's brilliant, because I think it also gives people a choice. They click share, and Facebook comes up, copy link comes up, Eco Squared comes up, let's say lit. Again, it's branding, simplicity, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, lit comes up.
Lit? No, it's definitely lit.
Yeah, and they go, oh, right, well, I actually really believe in this, so I'm going to use lit because I know that money is going to be taken out of my subscription if I use lit. Whereas if I use Facebook, no value. Creator gets no value.
How you get across that, I don't know, but that's the ultimately, not ultimately, it's one of a technical solution I think we could present to some coders and say, is that the best way of doing it? Because there are like third-party apps called Zapier that you're familiar with, that connects up different apps. So basically, it might just be a very, very small kernel of code, okay, that connects up what we've already got, Eco Squared, connects up, somebody's got email, connects up, third-party push notification. It just connects, and that's it. That's what the app is. It doesn't do anything more than that.
Yeah.
And that means we don't have any graphics, we don't have anything. It's just purely functional solution.
Yeah.
It's a possible solution. No graphic, but the point is, you're still faced. You more than me. I'm giving up. I'm definitely the person that does the engineering. How do you get this thing across? Okay, to a bunch of people. So people go, oh, okay, I can see that. Oh, I'll tap my lit button today. You're still faced with that. Even if we have a brilliant solution, even if it's distributed and encrypted and it's beautiful.
Right.
So even if we've got that, it's still the problem. I'm exploring with you a real world thing in the network. I thought that's what we were trying to do. And I'm trying to do this thing now, maybe in Abbey Field, all right? And I've spoken to one person. I think she was just like, wow, what, beyond her ability. She liked it. She kind of got it. But when you start talking about, making 100 million, it's just like,
yeah.
They can't.
I mean, let's say like the Facebook story, it's quite I always think that the roots of something are always quite an interesting indicator for the future of something. And the way that all came about, the Social Network film. Have you seen that?
The network about Facebook?
The film, yeah.
David Fincher, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's something kind of throwaway about it, actually. It's like initially it's throwaway. It's about like choosing who's hot and who's not hot.
That's right. Right.
And then Tinder kind of took that on and actually did it later in a way with the swipe left, swipe right thing. But this like wholesale, there's a gap for the actual solution. I mean, it's like the gold rush or the oil boom. It's like the people who started there are not necessarily massive philanthropists, right? And that creates the trajectory forever. And then their corrections, occur towards a more ethical and sustainable way of being, right? and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it goes the other way, you know. Some, like a collection, a handful of people getting hold of this kind of information and like, oh my goodness, these guys are hippies, or oh, these guys are dangerous, or whatever. Fuck that. You know, it's very simple. It's attaching money to what people actually like, right? Rather than people have to work 12 hours a day and then they get home and they get to like stuff on Facebook.
I know. Like,
it's like, so
I got stuck in a traffic jam yesterday. So I went to this place and I was driving back at 4:30, and I was just like stuck in a traffic jam during that time. And I hadn't done that for such a long time. And I was just like, I remember doing this. I remember being stuck in a car in the centre of London for hours, okay, just getting from A to B while I was teaching, between teaching. Da, da.
Sorry, man. Busy one today.
You want me to pause this?
No. I mean, we've got not all that long left, so I'll just call him back afterwards.
Okay, so, right, so what's the situation? That's what I've been doing, different things, very little. Most of it, honestly, the time I'm spending mostly is writing. Writing. And thinking about this, you know, basically doing a parallel fictional story. If the real thing isn't working, can we do a fictional? You know, and I decided years and years and years
That's
ago.
brilliant. I love that.
Well, I decided fictional, real. Which one should I do? Let's go for the real. Bad decision. Bad decision.
That's so fun. Well, it's not a bad decision. I mean,
well,
everyone. I think I don't know, man. I mean, yeah, I think it's just hard to be zen when, you know, things like finances and all that are a reality that is a disjunct from the ideal reality that is so clearly more desirable for everyone and not just for yourself. But I think what we need to do is, let's think, not panic. Like you'll have whatever panics you've got. I'm about to spend lots of money on a huge shipment of beer, which is going to change my life probably. So that's panic as well. But if you keep it zen and keep working, try and keep the sort of the demons like who.
Okay, you're at the start of it.
Start of what?
So, for example, this decision that you're making.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the start of something.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you've been doing lots of stuff, but to invest this money, to do the thing you're doing, that's like it's like a beginning of something that's going to last a period of time, and hopefully it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Whereas I've been doing Eco Square, and I'm going, I'm coming towards the end of it, going, like that. And so our energies are slightly different regarding that. Okay. So the lit thing was like, well, that's a new thing. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, it's a possibility. I don't know how much I can kind of pursue it, but I don't think I'm particularly stressed out, actually. No, I'm just using the fact that, you know, I'm committed action, and I can see an end point. So I'm like, okay, I need to do as much as I can to get to the end point. Cool. I mean, I'm sorry to say, even if you're Zen, okay, if you're in some kind of, you know, fight and there's like swords flashing around, what do you do? And I haven't got busy.
Yeah.
I haven't chased. So
totally.
Therefore, I've been quite calm and gone, okay, blades coming in. And you're just like...
I agree. I think that in a way it's quite brave as well there's value in the network I feel like I'm part of, like huge value in terms of propagation of some kind of, I don't know, message of like collaboration or like DIY maybe. But that's, you can't, I don't think, like, I think if the idea of you joining in the 9th of June and coming to, like you did a few weeks ago, up to Muir House to check the space out, that's quite a courageous change of direction compared with meeting people in boardrooms and looking for investment that way. But actually you've lighted on the fact that the horizontal, you need people who are receptive to the horizontal way of thinking, and that's what you've got. I think that's what you do have on the 9th of June, and that's why I think maybe the last few minutes we should just try and just work out action cycle. We should just do one. I'll be part of it as well, so you'll have a friend there, and it's not going to be a hostile environment. Don't worry.
The action cycle, okay, if you want to do an action cycle, okay, so for the 9th, I'm happy to do, whatever, okay, one thing. If you want one thing, it's an action cycle. If it's an action cycle, okay, we've done it, and I've done it in different environments. Okay, is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's do an action cycle.
Okay, if it's an action cycle, we've done it, like, for example, with Lean Business Network in London, and that was like 14 people, 16 people that are basically just there because they're interested in business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was amazing. I've done it there was this thing to with facilitators, and there was like 40 people. So we got together in, like, I think it was 5 or 4 different action cycles. And then they even produced results. A week later, they'd actually got results, and some legal thing had happened. It was great. Now those are quite disorganized, as it were. That's just groups of people like networks. There was no vertical. Okay, it was all basically horizontal and just different people, randomly coming together, as it were. Okay, so it's a network. And the action cycle meant to be designed for having a vertical in there. So you're meant to have a vertical. So it's meant to be in a company, so IBM or somebody. And then you introduce, the horizontal and the diagonal players, and then you've got the mix of the vertical. And that vertical is embedded within that company, and therefore there's money flow. Uh-huh. Okay, that's basically the source of the money. The source of the money is the company. Yeah. So the action cycle, the result of the action cycle should be beneficial for these verticals, i.e. the company, but it should also be beneficial for the horizontal and the diagonals, i.e. the networks that they're in and the companies that they're part of. Okay, but the money flow should be, because it's obviously useful for that group. And if it is, and they've managed to achieve things that are beyond the limit of the company that they're in, right, beyond that boundary, either accessing resources and people from other organizations, that's the point of an action cycle. Okay, and it does work. And I've only done one bona fide. We've done a couple, but one bona fide that I was participating in, and it wasn't a vertical. And we managed it. And people worked over the week, produced a video, got amazing results, video, website, and edu. It was an incredible thing. And it was created by one of the individuals in the vertical. And it was great. It was amazing. But at the end of it, the top person in that vertical didn't, in the end, go to Nesta or something. That's the whole point about this, was to satisfy something that she'd spoken to some chairman or other about what they needed. So basically, we produced it. In that week, we produced a solution. And that she was meant to present it, but she didn't. So because of that, we didn't get the money flow, okay? And we didn't have Eco Squared and everything else. So with Eco Squared, the potential is that a bunch of people come together. If you don't have a vertical, and I get the impression that you don't have a vertical.
Well, we'll see. Carry on.
Okay, if we've got a vertical, then it's kind of formal because of that vertical structure. There's a formality to that and a legal structure to that, and the professional relationships and the financials and the who makes making decisions and the money and all that kind of stuff is embedded in that vertical. Yeah. They don't have to talk about it. They don't have to discuss it. It's embedded.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So what you're saying is, I mean, in a way, let me be controversial here. Action cycle is where you get together and spontaneously as a group come up with what needs to be done. Direct cycle is where you have a remit and you work out how to realize that. And I would suggest that under those definitions, what you're suggesting with the vertical and horizontal action cycle is actually a hybrid of a direct cycle and an action cycle. Because the functions, the embedded relationships and all those things about the vertical define the action cycle's goals. So if you want that, I was going to say you could have the charity trustees from your house as the vertical. But they're all quite horizontal people, and they
that's it, exactly.
But they're not completely. I mean, they run organizations. They're people like me. Miria is definitely an operator, not just like you.
She probably doesn't like to think that she's operating like a vertical. I think she's probably a facilitator more than a
Well, yeah, but she's fun. She needs funding to be done. She's got deadlines that need to be met. She is overseeing a number of staff. So am I. You know, anything where the buck stops with someone doesn't mean. Yeah, it's like then it just comes down to what hierarchy is, what verticals are, and how rigid they are. But I think both things exist in a horizontal and a vertical because the two are actually mythical ultimately. But yeah,
This is definitely horizontal. Between us, this is definitely horizontal.
yeah, this is horizontal.
This is definitely horizontal. Yeah. Whereas
it seems like you've got a hierarchy in your own mind of like vertical is superior just because it's got money, but horizontal is superior because it doesn't have money.
yes.
So
Well, not because it doesn't have money, but just because we're operating in a slightly different way. And that works, but we don't have an efficient system. Hence, eco squared hopefully does empower. So it has an economic for the vertical and the diagonal. And that's, you kind of do
the horizontal and the diagonal. Yeah.
Huh?
You mean for the horizontal and the diagonal?
Yeah, the diagonal basically, the reason why it's diagonal is because you don't know what role they're in. They could be a CEO of another company. They could be a student. You don't know what level of hierarchy in whatever organization they're in. So you call them diagonals, which you don't know. Whereas a vertical is basically that person is getting more money, okay, and whatever they say, they're making the big decision, and that person's making some decisions, and that person's making less decisions, making more locally.
Yeah.
But the point about getting them in the room at the same time is that they can make a solution together. All right. So that person go, oh, this would be a good idea if this happened. All right. I will. Do you think that's a good idea? I think it's a good idea. I can access more resources. And that person says, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And they can do it all within an hour. Okay. And if that happens within an hour, suddenly you've got action for an hour, not just them, but with these other people. Whereas the traditional way is you speak to that person, they pass it up, and then that person, okay, well, maybe, and then they get more information until eventually they present it up to that person, and that person, it takes forever. That chain takes forever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That filtering process. So we're saying do that at the same time that you're actually engaging other people. So there's no loss of information, there's no loss of time. You just have to trust people and say, well, I mean, I don't have, this guy said, I don't have those resources in this company. I do. I've got those resources. I don't know a person. Oh, I know that person. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you understand the principle of people making use of the resources they're in. It's just that the money flow right now is mostly in organizations. So regarding the ninth, we've done a variety. We have done a variety of things, and it's how formal do you want it? And if you make it, if you say, right, it's in this organization, all right, and it's a vertical thing, that has a slightly different quality. Honestly, it has a different quality going to a place like that.
Yeah.
It is a bunch of people invited, a group, a network. It's basically all horizontal and diagonal.
Yeah.
That's a different...
Still valuable?
Oh, yeah. Look, people have had amazing experiences either way.
I think we should do I mean, my temptation would be to try and do a direct cycle with the horizontal and vertical, and then just a normal action cycle with the horizontal. But if we have to choose one, I would choose action cycle with horizontal.
Action, no, that, okay. The only difference between, for me, an action cycle and a direct cycle is the fact that an action cycle, we don't know. You just don't know. Okay. Yeah. But the directed, you're kind of saying, it's about this.
Yeah.
It's about this. And you're trying to say, look, guys, whatever idea we'll come up with, we're trying to get into this area over here. Okay. And it's a target. So it just constrains it a bit. Okay. So that's a direct cycle. But whether it's vertical, horizontal, and everything else, that just depends on where you do it. If you do it in a company, or as you say, you just get a bunch of people together. And they're just, whoever they are. But it'll be looser. All I'm saying is that if you have a vertical, which is quite strict, if you have a strict, obvious vertical, it brings a certain level of discipline, okay, by other players. If you get a network, it's very much like people turning up, doing their thing. Nobody's, they're like, oh, okay, everybody's got a say. Everybody's like, oh, okay, da-da-da-da. And that lack of discipline can mean that if, for example, somebody puts up a yellow card, okay, because that's a rule that we're all accepting. I disagree, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, right. Well, there could be a danger. Although it hasn't happened. In all the time that I've done them, nobody's ever produced a red card.
Yeah. Okay,
Nobody's
cool.
produced a red card, but it could be done. Okay.
Right. I think what you're saying there really is, I mean, I think, there's another question about how you could create nice packages for selling to business as a service. I think there's definitely income there, but as far as income goes.
Yeah, it's possible. If you knew, I don't know connections. I still don't have connections.
I mean, okay, well, let's think about that. But I'm actually interested by the idea of your horizontal.
The internet has died. Hello? Text. Yeah. Definitely. But no. All right. Right, Ed. I don't think you're ever going to watch this, but maybe one day you'll get back to this. You're going to be coming back in a minute, I think, but we need results. I can't emphasize this enough. And the traditional method hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. The writing of it, people turned off by the writing. And you're like, oh God. You say simple things and they don't see it. You say things with a little bit more, kind of like, ooh, extreme form to it. then they're turned away. And there's a sweet spot somewhere in there. I can't tell where it is. I've engaged adolescents. So basically you have to say things that are true or like are kind of like remarkable. Everything else, all that middle ground is confusion. So, the action cycle. It's very easy to get an action cycle with people, and then they get interested and they get enthused, and then they even commit. But how many of them actually then do anything after the action cycle? Okay, and there was a lower hit rate. How many people actually did it? So then you have to bring in more discipline into the action cycle so that you make sure that if you commit, and because if you don't commit, anyone doesn't commit, including you, then you don't do it. Okay, so even if it's very exciting, people are very excited, you don't go along with the crowd, you go for, okay, wait a minute, I'm not convinced that the people are actually going to do the things that are required, i.e. the hard work. So why should I commit to something if I don't really believe other people are going to be committed? So you have to get that level of commitment. I did it with students. And it works. You can't just go, okay, let's try and do this thing. Let's try and do, 25 weeks work in 5. Let's just try. No. Okay. However enthusiastic the teacher is, it's not going to work unless the students, not only enthused, it doesn't even work if they're just enthused by that idea, they commit to it. And when it gets tough, it happens. Hello, Ed.
So no idea what happened there.
Okay, don't worry.
So, I think it's, I don't know, my home internet, I'm on my phone internet now, so.
Okay, so we'll just cut this, we'll finish this off. So, yes. What needs to be done? What needs to be done for next week, okay, that you need from me? What do you need from me?
Okay, so, well, I think just we decide together, like before the end of this call, in a couple of minutes, what we're doing, what action cycle we're doing, and then you just turn up and do the action cycle.
That I can do. It's got nothing to do with Eco Squared apart from, well, potentially we could do a financial thing or Delich. Well, potentially.
Well, okay. I mean, into that, I mean, you've already got the mechanism to do a financial thing. And I was just talking there about hierarchies and horizontal stuff. And if there's a pot of money, you say, at the beginning, you say, there's a pot of money, and they're like, who's giving us the money? And we say, you are. And then they put money into the app and decide what 100 quid's going to be spent on in the week.
Oh, whoa. Okay, that's a new thought. I hadn't thought of that. You're saying to commit the part. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but that's what we discussed, remember, with the pennies. We talked about...
Oh, no, pennies I thought was I was going to invite people. So if you say, right, come on to this action, here's a penny, right, okay. Have you brought your penny that I gave you? Oh, yes, you have. Great, okay, right. So we've got the 10 pennies. If there's 10 people, it's 10 pennies because we've invited them to it. It's already money flow for the action cycle. What you're suggesting is people put money in for the week.
Well, yeah, I think so.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so that something can happen afterwards, but they might need some cash for like something.
Yeah.
And if even if it's to raise money for a particular group or entity, then that can be spent on that. I mean, it's like a mixture of work and money, basically. So
yeah, that's exactly right. I hadn't thought about that particular integration.
I think maybe like 100 quid's quite a lot, but maybe we could get like a quid from each person, or
Well, it depends on what the action cycle is and how committed we are and how practical it is. So if people are actually around the table and people are saying, well, it's going to cost to be able to do that thing by next week, it is going to cost in terms of resources or something or other 100 quid.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we can't do that. If we can't raise the 100 quid together in that room, right? Well, we can't do it. So we have to think of something that's only going to be, 50 quid, whatever it is, or 10 quid, or nothing. Whatever it is, we need to commit to it. And commitment is a trick, okay? Commitment is a trick because people can commit because they're all very excited, but will they do it?
Yeah.
Will they do it? And that's the third wow. Do they actually do it? And we've had people that they say they're going to do something and they're very convincing and oh yeah, great, fantastic, committed, and then they disappear. And when you don't have a network where you're accountable to other people, and that's what the current situation is. People are doing crazy things with business without accountability. Whereas that's the whole point about having a network and then systems that, wait a minute, that wasn't very good. So we get accountability. So people, if they're saying they're going to do something or other, they are held to account by the people who they've promised that they're going to do something with. So yeah, it's interesting. But I hadn't thought about the money flow. Literally from,
Yeah, the only issue with that is with Eco Squared is you can't take the money out and spend it on stuff.
Not yet.
So what? Yeah, that's the yeah. So I don't know. So maybe next week we work out the mechanics of it with an aim to have a pot of money that's contributed by those who are present.
Okay, if you want to do a direct cycle, okay, that's what you do. You say, right, potentially here's £100. Okay, but it has to be, for decagram. Okay, decagram, we need this kind of solution. We're doing this event at this point or other. We've got this thing, or somebody. You ask your friend, would you want to host one, and we can make it for you. Do you have a pain point? Do you have a problem that needs kind of solving that you can't quite solve? You tried to solve. You've got chronic issues. Well, that's what this is for. Do you have any cash for it? Okay, or you put it up. I could spend the last of my money on it as well.
Yeah, like a charity might be able to put something towards it as an experiment, if it's like a goal to do with the building.
Yeah, if there's a direct, if you get the commitment of the money beforehand, that sounds like a direct thing. It still means that it's not going to go ahead unless they get commitment. So they could say, yeah, potentially I'll put that in, and it's earmarked for that. So everybody's thinking for that target. Okay. But of course, do we actually go ahead and do it? Do we actually come up with something which is valid enough that we think we can do, within that week, with the resources and time that we've got? You're busy, I'm busy, they're busy, everybody's busy. So it's an interesting experience, but the time frame to do that all in a short period, it's very disciplining. It's very, very disciplining.
I think it'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I think maybe it might be up to us to do it all in 1 hour though. So which means we need to be able to clearly articulate that this is going to have costs to it, and that the sharing of costs is the best way to do that. Yeah.
I mean, if it was done properly, it would be following on from another cycle. And if once people start doing this, it's a paid for system, so that the horizontal person, is invited to do something at a company. Okay, I'm happy to do it. This is the money I'm bringing. Okay, and therefore there's like a power play, because you're saying, no, it's not just the company with money. I'm bringing money, but I'm only going to commit it if I actually have an objective that serves my purposes. Okay, as well. Okay, so there's like an equality going on there. But at this stage, I can't imagine horizontal players. Well, I suppose I could. It's interesting.
I think that's maybe, if we could spend next week on the details of how to make it happen. But I think that would be a really nice thing to do, because the day is about sustainability and about ultimately community, and that this solution is one way of making community finances work pretty organically in line with community meetings and the way they work already. With the one difference being that they encourage a certain commitment just because you put skin in the deal,
Yeah. And it's open. It's more open than it is usually for companies.
Yeah, and instead of one person coming with the money like that, like I said earlier, you don't need a hierarchy if you just have a pot of money there. But then implicitly, that pot of money is the power. And if that's come from one external entity, the people are not, unless they match it with their own money, they're not necessarily empowered by that money. You see what I mean? Yes. So if we can get people to put their own money in and see what everyone's commitment to their own small cause within that hour can result in, that could easily, 100 quid's enough for some flyers to promote an event. I would see the action cycle continue, for example. But the action cycle itself can be used to brainstorm what the best outcome is for those people.
Oh, I know, that's the idea. It's not brainstorming. One of the rules is no brainstorming. Let's do genuine, what's right now with the people, what between us is something that actually we can all contribute to and actually serves us all. All right. And that is, it's not really a brainstorm because that's kind of an artificial thing that you do. It's more like coming together and actually going, wait a minute, you said this, you said that. And it's very interesting. It really is very interesting when it happens. Very interesting. Okay, so I'm happy to take part in that. On another, if you're interested, I think if I'm going to go all the way up there, something to do with lit. Do you want to do something about lit? Do you want to do like a lit thing, or no?
Yeah, could do. I mean, I want to do probably something on Delic. I think lit would be good. I mean, I feel like these sessions you could easily have a bit of time, certainly for Eco Squared, explaining how that works and what it is.
Yeah, I can't really imagine. Well, maybe, okay, fair enough. It could be me going yab 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 to a few people. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like an action cycle sponsored by Eco Squared, and Eco Squared. You just talk about Eco Squared for a few minutes at the start, and then you can say, and we found that action cycles always falter when it comes to actually needing money to do things in the week, and Eco Squared answers that issue, and now let's do an action cycle.
Yeah.
On you go. Okay. Yeah. And then we can discuss next week about the challenges around it and real money and all the rest of it. But that would be fine, and that would represent Eco Squared as well. And then you'd have the rest of the time to network, chat to people, see what they think. Lit is similar to Eco Squared in the core element of sharing and paying for the share, or gifting the share, with money. So we could talk about that informally around it. I think Delic I'll probably present maybe in a slightly more workshopy format, maybe even just at a stall. I might have a stall with Delic up where I can show people how it works. There are stall spaces, but a lot of them will be with art, have art on them, and some of them will have food and stuff. So,
well, I could bring up a stand. If that's useful.
Yeah. If you're bringing the car, just bring anything you think would be useful and get there in advance, and we can just show you a spot. And yeah, it just if you want to be, it just might tie you down to a spot, a physical spot. That's all. You might want to wander around a bit more.
I did the wandering about last time. I spoke to a few people, shared a few things with people. They were like, "Oh, okay, nothing happened."
Yeah. No, but people are interested. People remember you. It's always just about the quickness of the functionality. That's really what it is. We've covered that.
Yeah. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Well,
of the action cycle next week.
Okay. I can do that.
Catch up on Trello with any interim thoughts, but yeah.
Okay, I shall see you. We'll speak next week and on Trello. Have a good week.
You too, David.
Ciao.
Have a good one. Cheers.